She locked her heart after her husband died, until a gentle rancher proved love was worth the risk. Red Dust Valley lay under two suns, one pale gold and one soft white. The light made the sand look like copper. The wind carried fine dust that slipped into every seam and corner, like the planet wanted to remind people it was older than their machines. Mara Ellison woke before dawn, as she always did. She did not need an alarm. Her body learned the rhythm after the day her husband died. The daytime stopped feeling like something she could enjoy. Since then, she treated every morning like a duty. Breathe, stand, work, repeat. She pulled on her boots, wrapped a scarf around her neck, and stepped outside her small ranch house. The air was cold, but it would not stay that way for long. In 2 hours, the heat would rise and the valley would shimmer. Ahead, the ranch spread wide. Fences ran across the plain in long lines, broken here and there by repair patches and new posts. A water tower stood like a lonely watchman. Beyond it, the herd moved slowly, dozens of bio cattle with dark hides and long horns shaped by careful breeding. Their ears flicked with small tracker tags. Their hooves pressed patterns into the dust. Myra walked with steady steps, not fast, not slow. She carried a tool kit and a small scanner. Her drone, a compact round unit named Kite, floated above her shoulder and hummed quietly. Kite was old but dependable. Myra trusted things that worked without excuses. She checked the feed lines first, then the water valves. The display on her scanner blinked green, then yellow, a minor pressure drop. She frowned and knelt to inspect the connection. Fine dust had clogged the filter again. "Of course," she muttered, more to herself than to the machine. Kite shone a light where she pointed. Myra cleaned the filter and resealed the valve. The display returned to green. A small win. Her life was made of small wins now. She had stopped expecting big ones. As she stood, she heard a faint buzz in the distance. It was not wind. It was not a drone either. It was a frequency, low and uneven, like a radio signal coughing. Kite's eye lens rotated, listening. Mara lifted her scanner and checked the band readings. A spike flashed, then vanished. "Interference," she said quietly. The valley had been getting more of it lately, nothing big at first. A tracker tag losing its signal for a minute. A gate lock taking too long to respond. A weather report glitching with wrong numbers. Everyone blamed old equipment or solar flares or bad luck. Myra did not believe in bad luck. She believed in causes. She looked toward the eastern ridge where the land rose into cracked stone and sharp hills. Beyond that was open range, and then the border zones, the outer parts of the colony where law faded like paint in sun. She pushed the worry down. Today had enough tasks without adding fear. Myra started walking back toward the main corral. Kite floated beside her, quiet again. The herd grazed, calm. For a moment the scene looked peaceful. Then a sharp alarm tone cut the air. Kite flashed red. Myra stopped. Her stomach tightened. The sound was coming from the south pasture, where a group of younger animals were kept behind a smaller fence. She broke into a run. Dust kicked up around her boots. She heard hooves now, too many hooves, pounding like thunder. The young herd was moving fast, too fast, and not in a normal direction. They were pushing toward the fence line, eyes wide, heads low. Their trackers blinked with strange errors. "Easy," Mara shouted, though she knew they could not understand words. She clicked her tongue and raised her arms, trying to steer their movement away from the fence. She needed them to slow down before they smashed into the posts. Kite sent out a calming signal, a low tone used to guide animals. Usually it worked. Today it didn't. The stampede grew worse. Myra saw why a second later. Above the pasture, a guidance drone she did not recognize was circling too low, flashing bright strobes and sending out a harsh sound pattern. It was like someone was poking the animals with invisible sticks. "Who sent that?" she snapped. The drone darted sideways, then dipped, as if it were chasing the herd. Mara's pulse hammered. If the animals hit the fence at this speed, the posts would break and the herd would scatter into open range. Worse, some could run into the canyon wash where old mining pits still existed. She threw her scanner toward the drone's signal and tried to override it. The screen filled with noise. The drone's ID read as scrambled, not registered with the local network. Her hands shook once, just once. Then she forced them steady. She needed help, but she didn't have time to call the whole town. As Mara moved closer to the fence line, a sound rose behind her, another set of hooves, but not from bio cattle. A rider fast. She glanced back and saw a man on a tall, sturdy mount, one of the newer gene-bred horses designed for frontier worlds. The animal's coat shone dark, its legs strong, its breath puffing in the cold air. The rider guided it with ease, leaning low, moving with the wind. He wore a dust coat and a wide hat fitted with a visor strip. His face was calm, focused, and he was riding straight toward the chaos, not away from it. Mara recognized him, the new rancher, Elia's hero. She had seen him in town 3 days ago, buying supplies and asking quiet questions. He had spoken with a soft voice, like he didn't want to take up too much space. Mara had assumed he would be gone by next month. People came and left all the time. They tried the frontier and then decided it wasn't for them, but here he was, charging into danger like he belonged. Elias pulled his mount to Mara's side without wasting a second. "Your South herd?" he asked. "Yes," Mara replied sharply. "A rogue drone is driving them." "I can't override its signal." Elias' eyes flicked to the circling drone. "Not rogue," he said. "Hijacked or bait." Mara didn't like the sound of that. "What do you mean?" "No time," he said and reached into his saddlebag. He pulled out a small device, a handheld pulse whistle. It looked old, almost handmade, with a metal body and a simple grip. Mara stared. "That's not colony standard." "It works," Elias said, and his voice stayed gentle even as the herd thundered toward them. He clicked the device and aimed it toward the animals. A deep, steady tone rolled out, not loud but commanding, the kind of sound that seemed to touch bones. The young cattle hesitated. A few slowed, others kept running. Elias adjusted the frequency with a twist of his wrist. The tone shifted, softer and wider. The herd slowed more. Mara watched, surprised. She had never seen tech used like that. Most ranchers relied on drones and standard codes. Elias was using something between old cowboy instinct and new science. "Now," he said, "we guide them." He nudged his mount forward and rode along the herd's edge, not cutting them off too harshly, just shaping their path. Mara understood immediately. She ran to the other side, keeping distance from the hooves, using her arms and voice to create a wide funnel. Together they moved like a practiced team, even though they had never worked together before. The animals began to turn, their panic easing. Their speed dropped from wild to fast, then from fast to manageable. But the hijacked drone dipped again, trying to restart the chaos. Elias looked up. His calm expression tightened. He lifted his wrist and tapped a small control band. A tiny drone launched from his coat, sleek and fast like a silver hawk. It shot upward in a sharp arc. Mara's mouth went dry. His drone was not civilian grade. It hit the hijacked drone with a burst of blue pulse light. The rogue unit jerked midair, its strobes blinking out. It wobbled, lost control, and dropped into the sand with a soft thud. The herd, finally free of the harsh signals, slowed almost completely. They clustered near the center of the pasture, breathing hard but steady. Mara stood with her hands on her knees, catching her breath. Dust clung to her scarf. Kite's light turned green again. Elias rode closer, then dismounted smoothly. He walked toward the downed drone and knelt beside it. "It's been modified," he said quietly. Mara stepped closer, keeping her distance like the drone might bite. "Modified how?" Elias opened a small panel with a tool and showed her the inside. The circuits were altered. A second transmitter had been added, hidden beneath the main board. It was the kind of work done by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Mara felt cold even under the rising sun. "Why would someone do this?" Elias looked up at her. His eyes were steady, not dramatic. "To test your response," he said. "To see how fast you move, to see what you have, and to see if you're alone." The last words hit Mara hard. She was alone. She had been alone for years, by choice and by pain. Mara straightened. Her throat tightened, but she forced her voice to remain even. "Who are you?" Elias blinked, surprised by the question. "Elias Harrow. I bought the Morgan Ridge plot. I'm trying to build a ranch." "That's not what I meant," Mara said. She pointed at his sleek drone, now hovering quietly near him. "That's not ranch equipment." Elias hesitated. For a moment he looked like a man deciding whether honesty would cause more harm than silence. Then he said, "I worked security in the frontier lanes long ago." "I left it." Mara's eyes narrowed. "Why?" Elias stood slowly and brushed dust from his hands. "Because I got tired of people using fear as a tool," he said, "and because I wanted something that grew instead of something that broke." His words were simple, but they carried weight. Mara did not know how to respond. She should have said thank you. She should have offered him water. She should have asked him to stay for a meal as repayment. Instead, she heard herself say, "This is my ranch, my problem." Elias nodded once, not offended. "I know," he said. I didn't come to take over. I came because I heard the alarm signal when I was checking my own fence line. Myra looked at him. No pride, no demand, just calm. Elias added, if someone is probing the valley, it won't stop with one test. Myra swallowed. Old memories rose without warning. Smoke on the horizon, sirens, her husband's last message crackling through a broken comm line. She pushed it down again, hard. I handle what comes, she said, though her voice lacked the certainty she wanted. Elias didn't argue. He simply turned the down drone slightly, revealing a symbol scratched onto the underside. A simple mark shaped like a crooked star. Myra recognized it. Many people did. It wasn't official. It wasn't legal. It was a raider sign. The air around them felt different now, like the valley itself had gone quiet to listen. Elias looked at Myra with careful kindness. You don't have to trust me, he said, but you shouldn't face this alone. Myra wanted to reject the words. She wanted to lock the gate of her heart like she always had. But her eyes drifted to the herd, safe, breathing, alive, because he had acted fast and without cruelty. For the first time in a long time, Myra felt something she did not know how to name. It wasn't love. It wasn't even hope. It was the small, dangerous feeling of safety. And that scared her more than the hijacked drone ever could. Morning light spread slowly across Red Dust Valley, painting the hills with warm orange color. The twin suns climbed higher, chasing away the cold night air. Myra stood near the fence line, watching her herd move quietly across the pasture. After yesterday's chaos, everything felt too calm, like the valley was holding its breath. She checked her scanner again. No strange signals, no interference. Still, she did not relax. Kite hovered beside her shoulder, scanning the ground with soft blue light. The drone made a gentle humming sound that usually comforted her. Today, even that familiar noise could not fully ease her thoughts. Her eyes moved toward the neighboring ridge. Elias' new ranch lay just beyond it. She could not see his house from here, only the faint outline of fences catching sunlight. She had not expected him to return after helping yesterday. Many people helped once and then disappeared, especially newcomers trying to prove themselves. But early this morning, she saw fresh tire tracks near her south pasture and new reinforcement stakes placed along the weakest section of fence. He had come back quietly and worked without waking her. Myra frowned slightly. She did not know whether to feel grateful or annoyed. She turned toward the barn and started walking, boots crunching against dry earth. The air smelled like metal and dust. Inside, she checked the storage units, counted supplies, and adjusted a broken latch. Her life was simple: work, repair, survive. It had been this way since her husband died during a border attack years ago. The memory came without warning, the sound of alarms, the fear, the emptiness that followed. She forced the thought away and focused on tightening bolts. A shadow appeared at the barn entrance. "Mornin'," Elias said softly. Myra straightened quickly. He stood at the doorway, hat in hand, giving her space instead of stepping inside without permission. His expression was calm, almost careful, as if he understood she did not like sudden closeness. "I didn't hear you come," she said. "I try to walk quiet," he replied with a small smile. "Didn't want to startle you." Myra nodded slowly. "You fixed the fence." "Only temporary," he said. "That section was weak. Thought it might help if trouble comes again." She hesitated. Saying thank you felt harder than it should. "It helped," she said finally. Elias accepted the words without making it heavy. He stepped aside and looked toward the herd. "They look calmer today." "They remember," Myra said. "Animals don't forget fear quickly." "People don't either," Elias replied gently. Myra did not answer. For a moment, silence filled the space between them. It was not uncomfortable exactly, just unfamiliar. Elias did not rush to fill it. That alone surprised her. "What brings you here?" she asked. "I found something this morning," he said, holding out a small device. It was a signal tracker modified with extra sensors. "Picked up a faint transmission near the old canyon road, same frequency as the drone yesterday." Mara's stomach tightened. "Raiders." "Maybe scouts," he said, "or someone testing equipment, hard to say yet." She crossed her arms. "The Valley Council should know." "I already sent a message," Elias said, "but response time is slow out here. I thought you'd want to see." Myra studied him carefully. He was not acting like a hero or trying to impress her. He simply shared information like a partner. That word made her uncomfortable. She walked past him toward the open field. Elias followed at a respectful distance. They reached the fence line where sunlight shone across endless plains. The horizon looked peaceful, almost beautiful, hiding the danger she felt beneath it. "I handle my ranch alone," she said quietly. "I figured," Elias replied. "You're good at it." She glanced at him sharply, unsure if he was mocking her. His expression stayed sincere. "Being alone doesn't mean being weak," he added. Mara exhaled slowly. Something in his tone softened her resistance, even if she did not want it to. They spent the next hour checking equipment together. Elias worked efficiently but without taking control. He asked before touching anything. He listened when she explained how her systems were set up. That respect mattered more than she expected. While repairing a water pump, Elias spoke again. "You built this ranch with your husband?" Mara's hands paused. "Yes," she said after a moment. "He must have been strong," Elias said carefully. "He was," she replied. "Braver than anyone I knew." Elias nodded, not pushing for more. That quiet understanding made the conversation easier than she expected. Later, as they walked back toward the house, a small storm rolled across the distant sky, sending dust swirling like ghosts across the land. The light turned golden and soft. Myra realized she had been talking more than usual small stories about broken fences, stubborn animals, old storms. Elias listened without interrupting. When they reached the porch, he stopped. "I should head back," he said. "Got my own mess to sort out." She hesitated. The words she wanted to say felt heavy, unfamiliar. "You could stay for coffee," she said finally, almost surprised by herself. Elias smiled gently. "I'd like that." Inside the house, Mara prepared coffee in silence. The room felt different with another person there. Not crowded, just alive, they sat at the small table, cups warming their hands. Outside, wind brushed against the walls. "You don't talk much," Mara said. "I do when needed," Elias replied. "But sometimes silence is honest." She almost laughed at that. A sudden beep interrupted them. Kite flashed red again. Mara jumped up instantly. The scanner showed a new signal spike, brief but sharp, coming from the northern ridge this time. Elias stood too, calm but alert. "They're testing again." Fear flickered inside her, but it did not freeze her like before. Instead, she felt something else, readiness. "We check it together," she said. Elias nodded once. They moved outside under the twin suns, shadows stretching long behind them. The wind carried distant echoes across the valley. As they walked side by side, Myra realized she did not feel alone anymore. The thought frightened her slightly, but it also warmed something deep inside. She remembered the years after her husband's death, the empty nights, the way she locked every emotion away because feeling meant risk. Now, with Elias walking beside her, that locked door inside her heart felt weaker. Not open, but no longer sealed shut. And somewhere beyond the hills, unseen eyes watched the valley, waiting for the right moment to strike. The sky above Red Dust Valley turned dark long before evening arrived. Thick clouds gathered, swirling with red sand carried by strong winds. The weather station near Mara's barn flashed warning lights. A sandstorm was coming, fast and heavy. Mara stood on the porch, watching the horizon disappear behind rising dust. Her heart felt uneasy. Storms were common on the frontier, but today felt different. The air carried tension, like something unseen moved with the wind. Kite hovered beside her, scanning constantly. The small drone's lights blinked between green and yellow, picking up unstable signals again. Behind her, Elias stepped out of the house, pulling his coat tighter against the wind. "Storms worse than predicted," he said calmly. Myra nodded. "I'll need to move the herd closer to shelter." "I'll help," he replied without hesitation. They moved quickly, working side by side. Myra rode her bike across the pasture while Elias guided the outer edge of the herd with his mount. Dust blew into their eyes, stinging and sharp, but they kept moving. The bio-cattle responded to their signals, slowly gathering near reinforced fencing close to the barn. The sky darkened until the twin suns looked like pale circles behind the storm. As they finished securing the last group, Kite suddenly flashed red. "Signal spike," Mara said, checking her scanner. Her stomach dropped. Multiple signals appeared on the display, moving fast toward the valley. Elias leaned closer, studying the screen. His calm expression grew serious. "Ships," he said quietly. "Low altitude, cloaked." Myra felt cold despite the heat. "Raiders," Elias nodded once. "This storm gives them cover." A deep rumbling sound rolled across the sky. Shapes moved behind the dust clouds, dark shadows descending fast. Myra's chest tightened. Memories rushed back, alarms shouting her husband's voice through broken comms during the attack years ago. For a second, she could barely breathe. Elias noticed immediately. "Mara," he said gently but firmly. "Stay with me. Focus on what's in front of you." His steady voice pulled her back to the present. She inhaled slowly. "We warn the others," she said. "I already sent a signal," Elias replied, "but we prepare here first." They rushed toward the barn. Elias opened a hidden compartment on his saddle and pulled out advanced gear, signal jammers, small defensive drones, and emergency shields. Mara stared. "You said you left security work." "I did," he said quietly, "but I never forgot how to protect people." The storm grew louder, wind screaming across the valley. A small explosion echoed from the far ridge, a warning shot. "They're testing defenses," Elias said. Myra grabbed her rifle, not a weapon for war, but strong enough to scare off predators and raiders if needed. Her hands shook slightly, but she forced them steady. "I won't lose this ranch," she said. Elias looked at her with quiet respect. "Then we fight smart." The first raider vehicle appeared through the dust, a hovering transport with sharp edges and flickering lights. It moved low, scanning the ground. Another followed behind it. Mara's heart pounded. The scene felt too familiar. "They're targeting livestock," Elias said. "Resources first." He activated a jammer. The air hummed as signals disrupted around them. The raider ship wobbled slightly, losing stability for a moment. "Now," he said. Myra triggered the herd guidance system, directing animals into tighter formation behind reinforced fencing. The cattle moved nervously but followed the signals. The raiders fired again, small bursts hitting the ground nearby, sending dust flying. The noise made the herd restless. Elias mounted his horse again and rode along the fence line, guiding the animals with calm movements. "Easy," he called softly, using the pulse whistle again. The deep tone rolled across the field, steady and reassuring. Mara watched him for a second. Even in danger, he stayed gentle. That strength surprised her. Another raider ship swooped closer, attempting to scan inside the barn. Elias launched his drone, sending it upward in a sharp arc. Blue light flashed as the drone disrupted the scanner beam. The raider vehicle retreated slightly. "They didn't expect resistance," Elias said. Mara nodded. "They thought we were easy targets." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the northern fence. One of the raiders had dropped ground units, small machines moving fast across the dirt. Myra felt fear rise again, but this time it did not freeze her. "North side!" she shouted. They ran together. The machines cut through fencing, trying to create an opening for the herd to escape. If the animals scattered into the storm, chaos would follow. Mara grabbed a control rod and manually triggered the fence power. Electricity flashed along the wires, forcing the machines back. Elias moved beside her, blocking another unit with precise shots from a stunned device. His movements were quick but controlled, never reckless. The storm howled louder, dust covering everything in red haze. For a moment, Myra felt overwhelmed. The sounds, the chaos, it all echoed the past. Then Elias' voice reached her again. "You're doing great," he said calmly. "Stay with me." She realized he was not trying to lead alone. He was working with her, trusting her decisions. That trust broke through something inside her. She moved faster, thinking clearly now. Together, they redirected the herd towards stronger shelter. Elias used drones to block radar scanners while Mara reinforced the fence manually. After several tense minutes, a loud signal sounded from the raider ships, a retreat call. One by one, the shadowy vehicles pulled back into the storm, disappearing as quickly as they came. Silence followed, broken only by the wind. Myra stood still, breathing hard. Her hands trembled as the adrenaline faded. "They're gone," she whispered. "For now," Elias said gently. The storm slowly weakened, revealing the valley again. Damage was visible, broken posts, scorched ground, but the ranch still stood. Mara looked at Elias. Without thinking, she stepped closer and hugged him tightly. The moment surprised both of them. She pulled back quickly, embarrassed. "I thank you," she said softly. Elias smiled warmly. "You saved this place as much as I did." Mara shook her head. "Before I froze." "Today I didn't." "That's because you're stronger than you believe," he replied. She looked across the valley. Years ago, she thought love made people weak. Losing her husband had convinced her that caring meant pain. But standing here alive after the storm, she felt something different. Love was not weakness, it was courage. As the twin suns broke through the clouds again, casting golden light across the ranch, Myra realized she was no longer fighting alone, and for the first time since her loss, that did not scare her as much as before. Somewhere beyond the horizon, the raiders regrouped, planning their next move. And deep inside, Myra felt ready not just to defend her home, but to open her heart to the possibility of something new. The storm passed slowly, leaving behind a quiet sky and a valley that looked both wounded and strong. Broken fence posts leaned at odd angles, dust covered every surface, and small burn marks dotted the ground where raider fire had struck. Yet the ranch still stood. Myra walked through the pasture early the next morning, checking damage one step at a time. The twin suns rose gently, painting the horizon with soft gold light. The air smelled fresh after the storm, and the wind felt calmer, almost peaceful. Kite floated beside her, scanning for problems. Its light blinked green most of the time, which brought her comfort. Behind her, Elias followed at a relaxed distance, carrying a toolbox over one shoulder. He had stayed overnight to help repair things, but he never acted like he owned the place. He waited for her decisions, asked before fixing anything, and worked quietly. Myra noticed that about him more and more he never pushed. She stopped at a broken section of fence and crouched to inspect it. "We'll need stronger supports here," she said. Elias nodded. "I brought extra carbon posts from my ranch, thought you might need them." She looked at him. "You planned ahead." He shrugged lightly. "Frontier rule, hope for calm days, prepare for bad ones." Myra allowed a small smile. They worked together through the morning, replacing posts and resetting guidance systems. The herd stayed calm nearby, as if they understood the danger had passed. As they worked, other settlers arrived to help neighbors from nearby ranches who had heard about the attack. Some brought tools, others food or supplies. The valley had always been strong when united, but Myra had kept herself separate for years. Now she found herself standing among them again, talking, listening, even laughing quietly at small jokes. One older rancher patted her shoulder. "You did good yesterday," he said. "Held the line?" Myra felt warmth in her chest. For so long she believed she had to carry everything alone. Now she realized strength could also come from community. By midday, the repairs were nearly complete. The ranch looked whole again, even if scars remained. Later, Myra and Elias sat on the porch, watching the herd move across the field. The sky glowed blue and clear, as if the storm had never existed. "You were brave yesterday," Elias said softly. Myra shook her head. "I was afraid." "Brave doesn't mean not afraid," he replied. "It means moving anyway." She looked at him carefully. His words felt simple but honest. Silence settled between them, comfortable and calm. Myra stared toward the horizon. "After my husband died, I stopped feeling things," she admitted quietly. "I thought if I didn't care, I couldn't be hurt again." Elias listened without interrupting. "I built walls," she continued, "not just around the ranch, around my heart." "That makes sense," he said gently. "Grief changes people." She nodded slowly. "When you came here, I didn't want to trust you. I thought kindness was temporary." Elias smiled faintly. "Sometimes it is, but sometimes it is." Myra met his eyes. There was no pressure in his gaze, only patience. "You never forced me to open up," she said. "That wasn't my place," he replied. "Healing has its own pace." She felt her chest tighten, but not from pain, from something softer. That evening, the valley held a small gathering near the central water tower. It wasn't a grand celebration, just neighbors sharing food and stories after surviving danger together. Lanterns glowed softly, and music played from an old speaker. Myra almost stayed home. Old habits told her to avoid crowds, to remain distant. But she remembered Elias' words about community, and she chose differently. She walked into the gathering slowly, unsure at first. People greeted her warmly, offering smiles and handshakes. For the first time in years, she felt like she belonged again. Elias stood nearby, speaking with another rancher. When he noticed her, his expression softened with quiet happiness. They walked together among the lantern lights. Children ran past laughing, and the smell of cooking filled the air. "You don't have to stay long," Elias said gently, sensing her hesitation. "I want to," she replied, surprising herself. They sat together on a wooden bench, watching the sunset paint the sky with orange and purple colors. The twin suns dipped slowly below the horizon, casting long shadows across the valley. Myra felt calm. After a while, she spoke again. "Yesterday, when the raiders attacked, I thought about losing everything again. I was terrified." Elias nodded. "But I also realized something," she continued. Closing my heart didn't protect me, it only made me lonely. He listened quietly, giving her space to finish. I don't want to live like that anymore, she said softly. The words hung in the air between them. Elias did not rush to respond. Instead, he asked gently, "What do you want?" Mara looked at him, really looked this time, at his steady eyes, his calm presence, the way he made space for her without trying to change her. "I want to take a chance," she said, "even if it's scary." Elias' smile grew warmer. "Risk is part of every good story," she laughed quietly. A slow song began playing from the speakers. Couples moved toward the open space, dancing under lantern light. Elias stood and offered his hand. "Would you like to dance?" Mara hesitated only for a moment before placing her hand in his. They moved slowly, not perfectly, but comfortably. The music flowed around them, and for the first time in years, Mara felt light instead of heavy. She realized she was not betraying her past by feeling happiness again. Her memories of her husband would always remain part of her story, but they did not have to stop her future. When the song ended, they stayed close, watching the stars appear one by one. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" Elias asked. "For reminding me that love doesn't mean losing strength," she replied. "Sometimes it means finding it again." He squeezed her hand gently. The valley around them felt peaceful, strong after surviving the storm and the attack. Life would not always be easy on the frontier. There would be new challenges, new dangers. But now Mara knew she did not have to face them alone. As the twin moons rose into the sky, she felt her heart open fully for the first time since her loss. Not because the past disappeared, but because she chose to move forward. And beside her stood a gentle rancher who proved that love, even after deep pain, was still worth the risk.